Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Torchlight II. So, as I was working my way towards this quest, which I've realized that these stars in the mini-map are going to be our guidance, I ran into this Ghost to Plunder Cove side quest, so that's what we'll do now. Inherently, I imagine we are supposed to run into a lot of side quests in the game, and it's kind of weird. They're just keeping the visual concept consistent by having a portal here, even though pretty obviously they intended for you to ride just a boat to reach an area. So this is different in that we are not fighting skeletons now. Instead are fighting storm claws. That's interesting to have a character get knocked far back. And there's just no telling really how big this is going to be. I imagine it's not going to be too big. But I do think I'm already starting to feel like the layout of this area, being, I assume, procedurally generated, is just more trouble than it's really worth. To kind of have to walk with your hand on this ledge or the wall of a map. That way you need to hurry up and kill this. These guys are heavy named characters, I think, taking on. And it's just a whole group of pirates. It definitely feels like what's going to happen here is you're going to end up... Interesting, you can see him from a far distance. Yeah, it feels like you're going to end up taking on stronger and stronger enemies at a very quick pace. What might really be happening here is just because I'm playing the game on easy, there may be a case here that I'm just burning through the levels very quickly. Like if I'm in less than 3 hours, already approaching level 8, then it becomes a question about, is it going to be twice as much XP to get from level 8 to level 9, and then twice as much XP to get from level 9 to level 10, which with that kind of exponential that doubling, not exponentials, but the doubling of requirements even, is going to make things much slower later on in the game. We assume that we would hit just about level 100 in the game, because that sounds like the right round number. So the side quest here is that there were several people that murdered a guy several hundred years ago, and so now we're coming to avenge a ghost by murdering another ghost. But yeah, that's silly. And also, I would say does feel like we're not going to run into fishing holes anywhere as often as we did in the first game. Pulling back on that concept is probably a smart move because I don't think it was particularly really popular. I don't see how fishing ever really would have been that popular. In a lot of ways, fishing should be just like a mini game that happens once in a kind of storyline element, or it's an area where you could go to maybe play fishing at some kind of stall in one of the locations to get gold or possibly get crystals. My right click attack is strong, but I want to see it charge up more because
You have gained a level.
you just don't have, unless you just intentionally don't use it, you're just not going to build up enough uses to just right click and end up and be able to defeat a boss in one hit. Although inherently I don't know if we really need to or should be able to defeat bosses by just right clicking 4 or 5 times and using your special attacks, because that kind of kills any real challenge.
Hear my words.
It seems I have not earned my eternal rest. Your part in my story is done, though, and if my gratitude means anything to you, you have it. So, this would be a two-handed for 130. This would be a 12, which will be a while before we are at level 15 to wear that for 84. This would be slightly better for 125. But I think we'll just take the most expensive thing.
You have gained fame.
And each side quest we do gives us something more. My main concern is that I'm just not going to pay attention to my health high enough. So I think dexterity, dodge enemy attacks. Notice these words are in blue, but I can't actually move the mouse cursor over slowly to read what blue might mean. So yeah, if we could get the dodge chance up, that's better than getting health up. And crit chance is certainly helpful too. Alright. So, One-Eyed Willie's other eye. Plus 3 to physical armor conveys 15 physical damage over time. Well, that went really slowly when I clicked on that. I imagine 4 slots or 3 slots may be the maximum that anything can have, and it may be different for the type of thing it is. Is one more armor bonus really worth it? It is also possible that we were just it's possible we'll just hold a high standard, and with that high standard we will be pushed to not replace things as often. Okay, we have a unique shield, level 7, so we probably want to keep that. Plus 5 vitality, but no empty sockets. Probably better. Let's think about that. Now, ghastly boots. They would go with ghastly something else. So we're potentially going to get a series here. Let's see. That's not worth keeping. That's not worth keeping. I'm not going to throw something away that has a gem in it either. Magic find luck. Find better equipment potentially. But then this has 2 gems in it, so I have to hold on to that until I can find potentially something to replace it with. This is faster than that was. I think we are just not going to keep brass knuckles. 2 of these on top of each other would be how you would use that. Yeah, and I don't think we're using wands. Something having superior in the name probably does speak to its damage. And its quality. Well, its quality in general. Let's swap that out. This requires something more. This is worse. Now inherently, I think you can pretty well tell this is part of the game loop. So if you don't enjoy this part of the game loop, you can't bypass it. There's just no way. You're going to, you could at best drop items with no concern, just throw everything on the ground, or possibly not pick up items at all. Of course, I think if you went down that route, you would kind of quickly find that you're going to be in a worse position trying to play that way. So get that. Go ahead and get rid of that. I think we can still say even a hasty truncheon is not going to be as good. Wood spike shield, which I guess I could equip that. Unique wand, unique shield. It seems like you would need 3 pieces of the ghastly items to get a bonus, and having 4 pieces potentially doesn't change anything. This superior bow compared to that. This bow fires slower and does less damage. So I can sell that. We may find that this weapon is actually pretty useless now, too.
Your pet has departed.
So he'll be back now. The pet will be back in 1 minute and 10 seconds, which is really just enough. I would assume that there's not a real reason to go back into any of these portals. It is possible, somewhat believable, that you would maybe be able to fight some generic enemies. There's a quest giver.
Hey, friend.
I've got a proposition for you. A little scratch my back, you scratch yours. That's not even... I scratch my back, you scratch yours is not even the right phrase, kind of thing. See the crypt over there is called the Bone Gallery. And there's a thing that's called the Rosa Mortis, which, while pretty valuable, is also guarded by the biggest undead monstrosity I've ever seen. You'll have to convince the Estrian spirits to unlock ghost chains and give you access. Then get Rosemoth away from the monster, but I promise to make it worth your while. And so here's Resident Evil 4 reference to a merchant type character.
You have received a quest.
So on that aspect, let's see. So put a couple points into that too. We should get that up though. Bring out your dead. Doesn't seem like a challenge that I really need to avoid. And see, he's mentioning a crypt, and I don't see a crypt. So maybe it's over here. Screen Crusher level 7. There's just a ghost walking around. So, my feeling is that this area might just wrap around. And I kind of need it to, otherwise this overworld map is getting just too large to be manageable. Interesting, the entire screen is getting darker. Through waves of enemies. All my special abilities are fully leveled up here. So is this somebody I killed before? I think it is. Which is kind of funny, the bodies don't despawn. Or some of them don't, at least. So yeah, this area did just kind of curve around and lead us to the next side quest area. Now when I fast travel, do I have my healing bot with me? No, I don't. So in a funny way, it probably would just make sense to go ahead and summon a healing bot as soon as you enter an area. I'll just keep an eye out. This game does have achievements, and I know I've unlocked quite a few already on easy mode. It does make me suspect that easy mode in this game is just approaching a whole new level of easy that I was not really expecting, where it does seem like they are trying to embrace and court a large number of players who have never played this kind of game before. I'm not sure how well you can convince, particularly in modern days, new players to try out these kinds of games. Inherently, these games are of an older generation, and they just don't have the visuals. When you look at the way that Diablo 4 was announced after this game came out, with highly realistic trailer cinematics, and the way I imagine you start Diablo 4 is with a highly detailed visual cinematic. We just didn't really get that here. We got instead cartoony cinematics, which I don't have a problem with, certainly, but I could see how modern gamers would just expect more. And just the cartoony nature of this, and the zoomed out nature of this type of game, are going to feel different. They're going to feel older, they're going to feel unfamiliar to the way games are played these days. Most games are made. Everything has very much just boiled itself into being a muddy, mushy soup of blandness, copying each other and trying to compete with each other. And certainly there was a techno lust for just new technology and new visuals in games. I think in large part by the developers themselves pushing those desires. Also probably by console makers trying to make every game potentially be a tentpole game, that, or a system seller game, that would be a showcase for why you needed to buy the newest PlayStation. I doubt this series, now established in this art style, would ever be pushing graphics that hard. There's also kind of just a monotony, a zen-like monotony that you can embrace in these kinds of games, in the sense that you can kind of turn your brain off and just keep on playing. So we see a door. Is there anything to be learned about a door in a dungeon? I'm not sure there really is. You also have a situation here where playing in easy is proving to be so easy that I may very well not only never die in this game, I may just like hit a max level up and in a shocking amount of time. If all of a sudden this is a 20-hour game, that's too little. And could be a very fun.
My pack is full.
Certainly could be a very full and fun 20-hour game, but there's just kind of a accepted level of minimal content that this kind of game really needs. Okay. So we're also running into the problem of $72 versus 72 does more damage, but that one does more critical damage. Boomstick is slower, but it's a unique shotgun, two-handed. Let's see. Seven strength attribute. Oh man, this is just gonna keep on becoming an issue, I think. Spear feels like a different type of weapon. Yeah, it seems to me like you're just gonna become really numb to the elements. All damage taken reduced by 5%, and at increased gold, so we can equip that one. We can equip that one, and then we can equip that one. I don't know if we really should be doing anything else. We need to find a desocketer fairly quickly. Empty socket and 11 poison armor. It's questionable how much armor one would really need. One of these, I think, would do slightly more damage. But one of these is also doing poison damage. The sturdy gloves. Yeah, in a funny way, I guess what we're doing here is we're using the decrease in damage and increase in magic find and increase in gold find and increase in experience, all to as much of an advantage as I think we can. Let's see. So what we're looking for is to eventually find a magic thing, magic set, unique wands and well, not wands specifically, but unique items to use as a what am I trying to say here? I lost my train of thought. I think the point I was trying to make there is by increasing our magic find, we'll find magic items to replace the items that we're using now. %10 damage on reduction probably is not even as big of a deal as it might seem. We'll have to kind of keep an eye out to just see, are we going to hit a point where we're even taking that much damage consistently. So I guess what you were supposed to take from the door is the door means the area is not part of the main path, and thus you could skip it. Although if you are really running into a problem where I would say defensive seems a little strange. Why is it not just aggressive? Let's see how he plays that way. So door means side path, as far as I can tell. Gate means probably big boss battle. Large amounts of skeletons. Trouble means you're supposed to be building up your ability to use against the boss. That's, I would assume, very close. But maybe not. There is a real danger here, and I guess that's an interesting question. Let's go to settings here for a second. Is there an auto attack? No, there isn't. I thought maybe there would be, but no. Doesn't seem like there is. And a lot of these games probably did have mods or macros or ways of just working outside the system so you're not just clicking your mouse like crazy. Because there is a real danger here of just getting carpal tunnel in your pointer finger for as much as you're going to be clicking. There we have your classic fantasy mimic. And that's a named area instead of just another floor or stairs. And so I'd assume we are going to run into that guy. I don't believe your dog can, or your pet, whatever it is, can actually die. I think what happens is he just gets knocked down, and then after it's either safe in the area or after just a few seconds, he will get back up. Did we get everything? Does seem like having the dog being aggressive works. Mysterious skeletons. Probably about to summon something. Gate here, blocking your way. Let's see if maybe there's a dialogue. That was too easy. Now this was a thing about even in Torchlight 1, where they had this desire to have these fairly large enemies, and that just requires fairly empty areas, which makes it fairly obvious when you're about to fight a boss. Even on easy, there is just a whole split here between the amount of damage needed to kill a boss versus the amount of damage needed to kill a minion. So you're gonna look, I think, for weapons that try to do as much splash damage as possible. Area of effect style damage. To kill minions, and then you're going to, I imagine, look to just constantly increase your main damage, or at least your super attack for these boss characters. And you're gonna get distracted, and these crypts are gonna start taking longer and longer.
Hey, friend.
You found it fantastic. Here, let me just pay you for your trouble, and I'll be on my way. So, it feels like you should be capable of saying, no, I'm gonna keep this item, by just saying no. But clearly it's just accept the reward later. So, a shield for 84, a slow two-handed hammer for 123, and a rare tag for our pet, which I will take the rare tag for the pet. And that gives us fame. And then we are definitely back towards selling other things. Mana recovery per second. It's not something I think that's really going to matter. Might as well put things in the ghastly set. I think we're gonna be a while before we do anything with them. Goblin mortar. There's room, I think, for this does a little bit more damage and is a little bit faster than this weapon here. I think, but I'm not sure. Yep. There definitely is room to make these a little bit wider differences instead of giving a lot of items that are extremely similar. Now I'm intentionally skipping over physical armor items to keep this set.
Your pet has departed.
There's still a decent amount of items to think about as far as selling. Seven physical armor. I think probably replace this one here. I think they both have a gem in them, though. So if I am gonna replace it, I guess the question is just how valuable
Your pet has returned.
is physical armor. And I know that the amount he's going to travel is going to take longer and longer the further away we are from the home base. But it won't get extremely long. And I just think we kind of need to move the main story forward. Because I think that's what we really need for being able to remove some of the gems of some of these other items to start to think if that even is going to be a thing. It may not even be a thing. Of course, weirdness here. It seems like you can almost go either direction on the map. East Walls. This was where the side quest was. Booby traps. Beast Warrens is full of beasts. So in general, I guess I'm just kind of investigating this area and try and see how far it goes. I also kind of want to know if this area hits a end or not. Yeah, I'm definitely not loving the map design here, and that there can be just these rounded loops. Yeah, that screen is procedurally generated. You don't get any XP for destroying or standing on a trap and not setting it off. The fact that it's just constantly saying you're entering an area, then you're leaving an area, then you're entering an area, also speaks to procedural generation. No artist who had any real care for what he was doing would make a world map like this and label it in such a way that you just constantly get the entering and leaving an area. Props. I guess the question to ask is, at some point, are we going to be asked to come back to certain areas and kill a certain number of enemies? Or it maybe will be asked to enter certain areas and just clear them out of a certain number of enemies permanently. Just clear out an area.
A level.
So I'm trying to curve around and just see if Beast Warrens is the bottom half of a very large map, or if it just kind of goes on forever. I don't know how you'd really have run into these enemies though. At level 7. That might be an indicator of how much extra experience I'm getting. That I'm at level 12 now. I have whole skills. Let's see. Most have increasing in effectiveness and reducing any damage. 2% to physical and armor. Physical damage taken is reduced by 2. Plus 5 fire damage and elemental damage. Let's see. There's a certain point when I look at the skills that also speak to it not being that long of a game. There was a few games that I recall playing, particularly from the Xbox 360 era, that by the time they got sequels, felt like they were trying to make a very different experience just to match what a new audience, new generation of gamers might be looking for. A big part of that too is that there's a few games that were just not being made by anybody who worked on the previous games. And while video game development certainly, in my opinion, is a collaborative effort to say a sequel to make a game like Torchlight II, and then potentially, I'm not sure for certain, but I think the people that worked on Torchlight II may not have been the same general group of people that worked on Torchlight 1. Although I'm not noticing huge differences, just some quality of life improvements, speed ups, things that overall I'm completely appreciating. We may very well just say this is a nice little short sequel to a much longer game. Any quality of life improvements here so far I don't think would be so much better that it would be hard to go back and play the first game. I definitely have seen that in some games where you get a sequel and then it's just so much better than the previous game. Or nowadays it's a lot more, you get remasters. And they tend to be so much better than the original versions. Enough that it's not really realistic to go back and try and play them. Now I'm mostly keeping these fish for sale later, but once I move the main story forward, I assume eventually we'll get to an act change, and when we get to that act change, we will. Oh, and this guy was just barely across the river, enough that you could see him. Yep. I'm expecting something to happen so that our main base would let us spend a lot more money. Otherwise, the system is going to be fairly broken in that we're selling items, and so far the only thing we've been really interested in buying is identify scrolls. In a weird way, I feel like they've probably made this whole system so that you always fail for some attempts. It's not just a 100% guaranteed success ratio if your fishing skill is high enough. Some of the sound effects here definitely feel like throwbacks to Diablo, but they may not really have the same meaning audio-visual wise. Audio-wise.
My inventory is full. My inventory is full.
Two different ways they have it written. Identify. This is a unique ring. Fire armor. Well. Definitely can't say no to a unique ring. Dexterity over physical armor. Yeah. Belt has a socket in its fire armor. I think we can say no to that. It might also be that if we go up to certain areas, we will unique socketable by Sturgeon. So we should hold on to that one for unique on unique. Yeah, it does seem like going back up to certain areas has started giving us less quality items, lower level items. Seven. There's no reason to keep a 7 that doesn't have something more going on it. 8 plus 8 ice armor. Do you think that probably is better than that? Yep. So we are starting to find more magical things. It feels like. We also are still getting a lot of garbage. And I would say in general just getting too much stuff overall. No, my inventory wasn't completely empty when we started running around again, but still kind of cloth belt with sockets. Right, and then how many do we have as far as skulls of identifying? Not too many. Oh, and I guess there's other items we could suggest buying, including big health potions and giant health potions. And huge being bigger than giant, and super health potions, which our own health and mana would have to be fairly high to justify all of those. There's quite a few of them, so much for that thought that it would just be one potion always.
Your pet has departed.
Yeah, the one quality of life thing that really would have helped would have been more inventory space. Yeah, there's no getting around that. We were playing Menu Hero quite a bit. See, that looks like there's a locked... It says there's a locked chest here. See a locked chest. Well, I guess that's the locked chest. Interesting. So it just stays on the map. Well, I don't think that's particularly advantageous for anybody.
Your pet returns.
Either you can focus on playing the game, or you can focus on the prompt. I'm just trying to find the walls of this world. Map out everything by following the edges. You really didn't have to do this, as far as I recall, in Diablo. I think it was pretty obvious, and that there was usually only like one way you could go anyways. Here we have, I guess, discovered the Wellspring approach, which that'll be in this episode, I think, because let's clear the rest of the map and prove that we've been everywhere. It is arguably just too big of an area, and certainly way too crisscrossed of an area. And it does seem to me like we're not going to end up spending any more time in this overworld section, which means either the Wellspring is going to take us to the end of the thing. It's just going to keep taking us deeper. Okay. There's a decent chance I think it will just take us deeper. And I guess if I could find 4 pieces of the cloven wolf style weapons, that would be useful. What I think is going to probably happen though is that we'll finish this quest, and then the quest will have us go back to where we were before. A rare sword. 72 damage to 73. And I think that is better than the arming sword. That would be yet another thing to just try and get the gems out of it. I only have like one piece of the clothing health. And then the unique weapons, and I think things labeled unique are, I'm going to potentially end up trying to hold on to forever when maybe they aren't that unique. And I think we probably will hit a level where we start to realize some of these gems could just be polished into higher value gems. Holding on to them is probably not worth it. Slightly faster if I could put a couple sockets in it. I just don't think I should be holding on to items. Now, noticeably, as we wrap up here, there seems to be, at least on easy mode, a lack of use that's happening here. Like, we're at level 12, unless this game is going to push us into level 250, 500, it does just seem like easy, maybe too easy. We didn't get perhaps enough of a chance to experiment with different stats, and so I am generally just thinking of pushing stats up higher and higher, with pushing dexterity in particular higher and higher. It might also be a case that, well, this is weapon damage 59 out of 94, maybe that means that these weapons only will end up doing as much damage as this can be. So if it's 60 damage per second for the Stone Axe of Venom, maybe it's 60 damage per second because I'm at 59 through 94. And so if I had a weapon that, say, did 100 damage per second, maybe this would hold it back. Yeah, that is, I think, possibly exactly what's going on. And so then critical chance and dodge chance and things like that might affect other things, but I would imagine it doesn't. And for my character class, I think putting anything into focus / magic probably makes a mistake, is a mistake. And then at some point, perhaps, increasing vitality would make some sense, in that you need just a high enough amount of health for those occasional times that you get hit hard. This whole stuff, though, these deeper stats, we've never been required or asked to go into these deeper stats, and you can see that there's quite a lot of them here. Sub-menus here. Also still a thing. And I'm just going to keep the fish, I guess. Pet spells, it seems like something we haven't even unlocked yet in the game. We haven't really done anything technically in the game, because all we've done is all the side quest crypts. And I question if on easy mode there isn't a case where you can do all the crypts easily, but if you were playing on normal mode, you would realize that you would be very low level and it would be difficult or impossible. So, yeah. Skills wise, just kind of keeping an eye out where we want to go. At the very beginning of the game, we decided to not focus on shield bash as a option. And so we're kind of painted into a corner from that initial decision. Alright. I haven't put anything in any of these other slots, and very possibly never will. Nice, I guess, that you could toggle the names for items on the ground, but I don't see a reason why you'd ever turn that off. Anyways, we're taking too long to wrap up today, and we've gone longer than I expect I should have. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and keep on watching. Thanks.